Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we might be competitively trying to gain power and influence over the city, known as Renown, by accomplishing various tasks. Or, we might be cooperatively facing certain doom in the form of an unhealthy blend of robot revolution and zombie apocalypse, where you'll be trying to destroy the corrupted alien pylons while trying to defend the Central District from hordes of turned citizens. Crisis at Steamfall is a 2 to 4 player game that can be played competitively or cooperatively, and it's on Kickstarter right now. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how the game works, and then I'll see you on the other side. This is the Kickstarter preview, so all the components and art you see here are prototype, and you'll want to check the Kickstarter page to see all the finalized components and art. Crisis at Steamfall can be played competitively or cooperatively. I'm first going to go over the competitive game and then touch upon the cooperative game afterwards. The city will be made up of different amount of districts depending on the amount of players you're playing with. Today I'm just going to show you a 4-player game so it looks like a full city. The objective of the game is at the end of the 3 rounds to have the most renown that looks like this. There'll be all sorts of different ways throughout the game to get those points, and you'll be trying to break Ciphers, which will also get you 3 renown. So you'll be getting these points called renown throughout the game. Each player will have a specific character with unique artwork and name, in this case with the red player, Jim and Beam. Now here we also have some action columns, and we'll have some starting actions in those columns, and we'll have some other actions that we'll be able to add to them throughout our turns, and we'll start with some resources as well. Each player will also get some starting equipment, and they'll have some power to start with these. These are essentially cards that will allow you to spend different resources like power in order to do special things. The game is played over 3 rounds, and in each round, each player is going to end up taking 3 actions in a clockwise manner. At the beginning of each round, most of the tiles will have a start round effect where certain things will need to go there. For instance, a civilian will need to go here, which we can interact with later, we'll show you, and an event card which will change how things happen for that round. For example, this one will just add to Steam, and then we would just discard this card. And so that tile is now ready to start. We do that for all the tiles in the game. And other event cards might have you place things on that district and then have it discard at the end of the round, but also have some actions that you can do when you get there, so the sort of ongoing effects that you can do during that round. Some districts will have multiple things added, like Steam, some ruins that you'll be able to go explore and get things, and some workshop cards which you'll be able to go pick up and change how you can do certain actions throughout the game. And so at the beginning of a round, the setup might look something like this, with a lot of different options out there in the different districts of items and things that you can go grab. So again, during the round, you're going to get to take an action, and then it goes clockwise, and you'll take a second action, and a third action that will be the end of the round. So on your turn to take your action, essentially what you're going to do is activate one of these columns, and this column is going to activate all of the actions that are below it. These are all individual tiles here, but on your turn you can actually add one of these tiles to the bottoms of any of these columns as long as it doesn't go below this line here of your board, and then you can pick a column if you will. For example, I could take some of these. I could even take maybe this one and put it here for a future turn planning for this because it doesn't go below here. And I could actually activate this one like this, and I would activate each of the actions here. Or if I didn't want to do that and I really wanted to say move 3 times this turn, I could place this one here. And I could activate this, and now I'm going to have 3 moves and a mood. We'll show you how this works. Let's first talk about the movements. Now I have 3 movements, and to move into an adjacent room, you look at how many diamonds are there. So to get from here to here, it's just going to cost me 1 of my 3 movement actions this turn. Now some tiles have some specific things that happen when you enter. For example, anytime you move into this, and anytime you actually use movement when in this room, it affects something. Now this thing here has to do with a little bit of your mood. Now mood is tracked by this. If it's getting better, it goes this way. If it's getting worse, it goes this way. So it just affected our mood 1, and it goes down like this. Well, my other action is also to affect that mood negatively. So I'm going to go like this. Now what does this do? Well, if your mood's here, you can put it all the way back to 0, activating what's there. So in this case, I could activate 2 actions of violence if I wanted to. Now this is interesting because violence is one of the ways that you can interact with the civilians that are on your district. Usually you can use either 2 violence or 2 charm, which is just another action that we haven't seen. And you can do that by taking the token, and you'd get the top card off the civilian deck. So I could use the 2 violence to do that. Or one of the cards that I started with is my 2 Troublemakers card, which says I can encounter a civilian for spending 4 of this scrap. Now these scrap tokens come double-sided, that's 1, that's 2. So yeah, I started with 4 scrap. So I could spend these 4 to interact with that civilian because of this card, or in this case, I could just move my mood down and use the 2 violence to interact with that citizen. So off the top of the deck, we have a civilian card, and each civilian has a passive action that's good all the time, an action that you can activate, and a quest. We'll go over some of these a little bit later once you understand more of the actions in the game. If you remember, we have 2 movements left, and to move to this secret location, 1, 2. We need 2 more, it's exactly what we need, and because we moved using this, we'd actually move our mood down 1 as well, but we've gotten to this secret location. Now when you come to the secret location, some of them have these workshop cards. You would discard this token, and you would take a workshop card and you'd be able to put it in front of you. I'll go over this in just a moment. But you also get this insight cards. Now, the ones that are further away actually give you 2 insight, and these are going to be important because you're going to be spending these a lot as currency in order to get those points called renown. So I'll get this and place this in front of me as well. Now this card I look at secretly, and I can say whether to reveal it to others or not. Now if I do leave it revealed, then certain items might come out, like in this case, it's going to put out 2 of the scrap there, but it also has a special ability in this case. For example, I also get to put one of my cubes here. This is an influence cube that lets me know that I have influence on this specific secret location. And even if this was flipped over and not revealed, anything you have a cube on, you can always look at the underside of it at any time. And now that I have an influence cube here, it tells me that I can activate this at any time, which essentially is green ciphers can be broken with 2 engineering actions. So let's talk about the ciphers now. Now, as you can see, certain districts have these ciphers. Some have different types, some have 2 of the same. The green cipher would be essentially the one that looks like it's green there. Now when you get onto a space with one of those ciphers, you can try to break this, and you have to break all 3 ciphers on 1 turn. Like this one is 2 green and a red. Well, normally it would cost this, like this, 5 violence or 6 insight. Now remember, the insight was what I got when I went to that secret location, and these are going to be spent as currency in order to break some of these, or 5 charm, which is another action, 5 movement. But don't forget that I went to here and I can break it with 2 engineering. Now engineering is a type of action that I could use on my turn, but there's other ways to get that through other cards and abilities as well. But you're trying to essentially break all 3 of the ciphers that are on there on 1 turn, and this will obviously help you do that. If you do that, you'll be able to take this and get 3 renown, which is essentially 3 points at the end of the game. Now we got a workshop card on that turn, and they do different things. Like this one says it's steam powered. Now these are power, which will be used to activate some of these special cards, but some things can help you power it. For example, this is steam powered. Notice the 2 lines matches up the 2 lines. I can make this steam powered beams rifle or steam powered power fist. And what this allows us to do is as soon as you put a card down like that, you get the power that it gives you, but this allows you to spend steam to give yourself a power in order to spend and to help you. It basically helps you power whatever you connect it to. For example, this one is I can spend 2 of this energy here, power, to basically do a power punch. It does 2 guns or 2 violence. Or I can do a power throw, which is spend one of this power in order to basically trade a card from my hand to any character that's in any area. And after it's my turn, we'll go to the next player's turn. We go clockwise. When it comes to me, I would just add any one of these to any one of these columns and then activate it up. And once we're done, I would have taken 3 actions. That would be the end of the round. So let's go over some of the other actions. This hand is called Manipulate. This is generally how you pick up items. So for example, if I was here, I could spend a Manipulate action to pick up Steam, or 2 Manipulate actions to pick up both Steam. And now these actually going to make a little bit more sense with the civilian that we got. For example, we can use the central square actions from any square. Notice that we talked about how some of those districts have certain actions that can be taken. You can take them from anywhere. Here you can basically pick up a resource from any unoccupied area when you spend the Manipulate. So you don't have to be in the same district of it. And this one has a quest. So this one just wants to clean the world. So you can collect the scrap. And every time you collect a scrap, basically you put a token on here, and after you've collected 5, by picking them up with the Manipulate, the quest would be done. We'd get a point and 3 insight. Now other things I haven't talked about are these runes. Now here you could spend a certain amount of actions to get something. Now this will give us 2 relic cards, and then once this is explored, this will flip over. And then something else can happen. Someone else is going to need to spend 5 to get that same reward, and then it would get discarded. Of course, at the beginning of every round, this specific district is going to get a new rune if it has not been fully explored. Now, these relic cards are pretty cool. They look like this, and they might do really cool things like, hey, you could trash this to break a blue cipher all by itself. So some of these relic cards are going to help you break those ciphers to get you a lot of renown. Now there's some other workshop cards called add-ons, which you see this line lines up with this, and now we have a steam-powered Power Fist of Violence. And then when we trigger this, this will now trigger this side of it, which will give me another violence action, and the impact is I'll actually decrease my mood a little bit as well, which is actually pretty good for this character because they're good at that. A couple other actions we haven't talked about is stamina. This can essentially be used as any other action, and then we have the star, which is used to activate some characters' special abilities. And after you've taken your 3 actions, the round's going to end. After everyone's done that, you just remove these markers and you would start a new round, set up all the new districts again, and you do this for a total of 3 rounds. And then whoever has the most renowned at the end is the winner. Now in the cooperative mode, players work together to push back against an invading army of mechanized civilians, and you win by destroying each of these 4 pylons in the ancient districts. And by surviving the 3 rounds by having at least one of these white Serenity cubes, 8 of them start in the central district. Now instead of the competitive mode where we use the cards to break ciphers, there'll now be crisis cards which we'll have to fight against, there's encounter cards, and there's a core shard and a resonating artifact. The first player will get this. Now it doesn't start with any power tokens, but over the course of the game you're going to be trying to activate this by giving it 1 power for every 3 insight you spend, and then you're going to be trying to spend 4 of that power to destroy a pylon in your area. So that's how you destroy them. And remember that you can always pass a card to somebody in your same area with a manipulate action. And the player that has this, which starts with the second player, it's a passive activation which allows you to explore those ruins in your current area for 1 less action or 2 less resources. And again, you can pass that to another player in your area using the manipulate action. Now at the beginning of each of the rounds, crisis cards, which you were ignoring during the competitive mode, will now come out. And by the way, you don't use any event cards. Now here, let's look at this one, Afflicted Rats. As soon as this comes out, certain things spawn. Now these are mechanized civilians. So now they look like this. It's basically the backside of the other tokens. And then you'll also put this, so let's say, 2 and 1 of the scrap. So that has spawned there. Now, you need to, in order to fulfill this, someone needs to be there with that core shard card that we had kind of talked about, 8 scraps, and if you are able to do that, you'll get a renown and you can discard this. However, if this is not done, at the end of the round, you'd have to discard 1 civilian in each area and gain 1 chaos for each of those discarded. And basically each chaos reduces that serenity by 1. And remember, if this gets down to 0, you've all lost. Or it might be something like this, civilian unrest. You have to clear all of the civilians from this area by using 4 violence, and then you get a renown, you get to discard it. Otherwise, basically you have to take 3 of those serenity cubes off the center district. Now, one thing I haven't talked about yet are the elite mechanized civilians. Now, when one comes attached, just like I showed earlier, this token actually goes on here. And now each mechanized civilian is going to take some actions at the end of the round. Now, for each of these scrap that's on there, they get an additional action. So each of the regular ones have 2 health, and every scrap is 1 additional. So this one has 2, this one has 3. And for each health they have, that's how many actions they're going to take at the end of the round. Now they do that in an order. First they'll attack any players that are there, then they'll kill civilians, then they'll move, and then they'll try to attack the central district. And you guessed it, civilians only have 1 health, so when those mechanized civilians kill a regular civilian, you're going to lose a serenity. Now these encounter cards do 3 different things throughout the game. When you're trying to attack a mechanized, essentially you flip this over and you look at this. You can do however damage is here, 1, and you can pick up 2 scrap. Also, if you have an item that has the weapon keyword, like this heat rod here, you can discard 1 scrap from a mechanized in that area, essentially reducing its health by 1. Now when you're being attacked by the mechanized, you look at the middle. This says, hey, you would have to lose 1 of that stamina, but you can ignore that effect if you have something with the keyword armor on it. Now when you try to interact with civilians in this game, you don't just spend the 2 actions like normal it happens. You have to spend those 2 actions and then flip over the card and look at the bottom. This says escort this civilian and gain a workshop card, or discard the civilian and gain a serenity. And if you have a card that has elegance, then you can reveal the top crisis card so that you get to see what it's going to be, and you can get 1 of those insight that we showed you before. So you're either going to be spending 2 of the charm to interact with the civilians using this, or spending 2 violence to try to attack the mechanized using this, or you're going to be attacked from there. So 3-way use cards for the encounter cards. So in order to win that co-op mode, you have to take out all 4 of those pylons and last all 3 rounds without any of the serenity dropping to 0. Well, I hope this gave you a good understanding of Crisis at Steamfall. And as you can see, you have the option of playing this game competitively or cooperatively, and it's based on that action selection mechanism along with some resource management and moving around that cool universe. Now I've placed a link below me in the description of this video, and that will take you directly to the Kickstarter project where you can see the final art and components and possibly even pledge. Now I'm sure the creators of Crisis at Steamfall would love your support.